Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending this press conference. We are all sadly aware of the horrific effects of a tragic Christmas morning fire that took the lives of 3 children and their grandparents. On behalf of the entire Stamford community, for whom I represent, our thoughts and prayers are with the parents, the families, and friends of these people that we lost. Over the last several days, we've made every effort to determine the cause of this tragedy so that we may present to you here today factual and reliable conclusions. There are conclusions up to this point of the investigation, and you'll hear them very shortly. One that frustrates us the most is, despite the heroic efforts, 5 people lost their lives in this catastrophic blaze, and there's no way that we'll ever change that. With me today is Interim Chief of Stamford Fire and Rescue, Antonio Conti. Alongside him is Chief Fire Marshal Barry Callahan, and with us also is the Director of Operations, Ernie Orgira. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Chief Conti.
Good afternoon. We received a call on Christmas morning at 4:52 for a structure fire with trapped occupants. The first arriving engine, Engine 4, laddered the building and was directed by Miss Badger to a 3rd floor room where she said her children were sleeping. The crew laddered the building, as I said, made entrance into the 3rd floor, and pushed through 2 rooms, unable to find the children. They made a very aggressive attack on rescue. They were pushed back by the intense heat and flames. When they came out of the building, the male occupant of the building said that the girls had moved from the 3rd floor down to the 2nd floor. A second rescue attempt was made by the same crew. They pushed in again, and again they were pushed back by the intense heat and flames. While this was going on, there were 2 more crews that were doing suppression techniques to try to keep the fire off of the rescue crew while they attempted to reach the girls. We had 1 captain who received 2nd-degree burns on his face. We had 2 firefighters who suffered smoke inhalation out of the rescue crews. Obviously, we were unable to rescue anyone in that structure, and it's a sad day for the fire department. The fire marshal has been working night and day to come to some type of preliminary cause of this fire, and I believe he might be able to answer some of the questions that we've all been waiting to hear. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Fire Marshal Barry Callahan.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Callahan. I'm the Chief Fire Marshal for the City of Stamford. On December 25th at approximately 4:52 a.m., a fire rapidly spread through a single-family residence located at 2267 Shippan Avenue, and it claimed the lives of 3 young children and their grandparents. Our initial on-scene investigation has been completed at this time. But the investigation of this incident is ongoing. Our preliminary findings have led this office to believe that the fire was accidental in nature. The area of origin was determined to have been on the 1st floor rear corner of the house in the immediate area of a mudroom and trash bin enclosure. Fire appears to have been caused by hot fireplace ash and embers which had been discarded in this area. The fire entered the house quickly and spread throughout the 1st floor and up 2 interior vertical openings, trapping the occupants on the upper floors. It appeared that all occupants were awakened and were seeking escape at the time of the fire. As previously previously stated, we are still working on this investigation, and it will remain ongoing until further notice. A full report will be released at a later date.
Thank you. We'll take questions now.
Were there working smoke detectors inside the house?
Ernie?
We don't believe there were any fire protection systems or smoke alarms activated in the house at this time.
Is that legal to be in a house?
The house was under construction. And until it was fully occupied, our building department will issue a certificate of approval for a resident to be in there. Until that time, we did not do a final inspection. We will not call for a final inspection of the premises.
So should they not have been in the home, or was it a renovation?
Well,
done?
they should not have been in the home unless they had a certificate of approval.
Would smoke detectors have saved their lives? Would they have been able to
I
escape?
would ask the fire marshal to answer that question.
I'm sorry, before you answer that question, about how long do you think that fire was burning before they woke up and realized they were in there?
Just based on preliminary.
I'm sorry, can you step to the microphone?
Just based on preliminary, it's been determined that they were going to bed approximately around between 3 and 3:30, and the fire was called in at 10:52.
What?
Hour and a half.
4:52, excuse me. So there's no real way of telling approximately how long it's been burning, but it started to burn within that time frame.
Can you just, so they removed stuff from the fireplace, is that what you're saying? And those embers ignited the fire?
That's what we're looking into at this point, yes.
Can you just explain that a little bit better?
It's been turned, sometime after 3, they removed hot fireplace ash and took it outside.
But outside where?
What do you, it was inside, right?
Somewhere in the area of the mudroom and the trash enclosure that's located at the rear of the house.
Mark, can you explain how you were able to figure that out? Did you still see the container where those embers were?
No, no, we didn't find a container, just based on the examination of the scene and some initial interviews. But like I previously stated, this investigation is ongoing, it's very preliminary at this point, but this is what we ascertained at this point.
And would smoke detectors,
That the grandfather had been trying to save the girl. Do we know anything about their final moments?
As I stated, we're still trying to, put the pieces together. It's only been 2 days since, the fire. We did preliminary interviews, and we still have additional interviews to.
When we went into the recovery mode, we found the grandfather in the back rear room of the house. He had actually made it outside the structure. He had gone through a window that was in the rear. They had a flat roof there, and they were renovating it, and they were making what we call a rain roof. So they had these roof rafters that were pitched on an angle, and they were covered with what we call Luan board. When he went through the window, he fell through the between the rafters and through the Luan board, so he was not visible to us. When we decided that we needed to open up that area, that's when we discovered him. Just inside the window that he came out of, we found one of the young children. I guess there were a pile of books. Looks like she was placed on the books so he could get out the window and then reach in and grab her. But when he went out the window, that's when he succumbed, and she died just inside the window.
And this was on which floor?
This was on the second floor.
second.
Chief, could you tell us, is there anything in your experience that could have prepared you for this?
After 37 and a half years, 38 years on the job, you're never prepared for anything like this. It's heartbreaking. I had to recall 70 firefighters today for debriefing, and most of them broke down. We're going to continue with counseling, so can you be prepared for this? No. Is it our job to do something? Yes, our job is to rescue people when they're in danger. You feel like when you don't make that rescue that you fail, and I don't think anybody wants to fail.
The other victims, Chief, the two other girls, they weren't in the same room?
No, what had happened was they originally told us that they were upstairs on the 3rd floor. That's why the rescue attempt was made on the 3rd floor. Then the male occupant had told us that he had led the two girls downstairs, so now they were on the 2nd floor. But the heat drove them to get separated from the male occupant. And it looks like one went back upstairs, and another one was found with the grandmother at the bottom of the stairwell between the 2nd and 3rd floor.
Did the renovation require sprinklers?
I couldn't answer that, I would have to ask,
Okay,
Is it
and-
code?
So does the code require sprinklers in a renovation?
No, not in
renovation?
single-family homes in Connecticut. It's been talked about, but it is not a code requirement.
So they had a building plan and a construction permit, but no certificate of occupancy?
There is a certificate of occupancy already in place on that house by virtue of its age. What happens when you undertake a renovation in the city of Stamford is you submit plans, and then those, as work progresses, inspections are made periodically. At the end of those inspections, you call in for a final inspection, and if everything is code compliant and meets the letter of the code, Connecticut Building and Safety Code, you're issued a certificate of approval to move in.
When they moved in a year ago, wouldn't there have been an inspection with the fire alarm existing there? I mean, how could somebody move into a home that didn't have an?
They bought an existing home, and at that point in time, whether they moved in or not, it was perfectly legitimate for them to do that. They filed a building.
Would there have been a smoke alarm in the house in order for them to be able to move in?
We don't know the answer to that. There's no pre-inspection when someone buys a house and moves into it. Usually, what happens is you rely on your education, you rely on your advisors, your consultants to let you know certain things that you need to do in the house, but there is no requirement that smoke detection systems be installed.
Did they have, did they have homeowners insurance? You have to have it.
That I don't know.
Just to clarify, Mr. Mayor, so
Yes,
they
Bill.
needed that occupancy technically to be living in that house, that the final approval. So technically, they needed that to be in it, right?
Technically, according to the letter, they needed that to live in certain portions of the house, that's correct.
Certain portions.
Correct.
Oh, but there were other portions that they couldn't.
That were already covered under their CO, that
We
weren't
don't know
touched
which-
by
And we
renovation.
don't know which ones.
And we don't know what that is, and the chief building official will have a report on my desk on that shortly.
There was no smoke detectors anywhere in the house?
We don't know that.
There were smoke detectors?
We don't know the answer to that.
Can you describe a little bit of what the renovation was, and whether or not there were any violations of?
Yes, I can. The renovations consisted of kitchen, bathrooms, some minor changes to the floor plan in terms of relocating some petitions, the addition of the small laundry room or mud room in the back of the house,
Which is
The re-
where the fire started.
the rebuilding of the porches, and that was all covered under a building permit. And there was even a revision to the building permit that was properly recorded with the building department. The last inspection took place sometime in July.
So Mayor, Mrs. Badger's reaction to the preliminary results?
We have none.
Did you talk to her? Did the city reach out to the family?
We did not. The investigators probably talked to her, but I have no knowledge of that.
Maybe Mr. Callahan, has your investigators had any contact with her?
Just with the initial preliminary interview that was done at the hospital, and we're trying to get in touch with her again to follow up.
And is she the person who took the embers out, or was that her friend?
It's believed to be her friend.
And have you soaked them? That's what you're supposed to do, soak them in water?
That's still being looked at, but it doesn't appear to be.
How was the
Talk
decision?
about how
Go back to the
dangerous
fire,
that
the
is.
Smoke detectors, 'cause I've heard two things. Are we certain whether or not there were smoke detectors? in the
That has
house?
not yet been determined as whether there was actual smoke detectors present.
So it's undetermined at this time?
That's correct.
But you do not believe the smoke alarms went off in the house?
That's still trying to be determined.
Can you discuss how all this is determined now that the house is raised with the